Good evening. I don't know if the new people who have come into the room, but for those who have, I'm Sean Yoes. I'm the director of the 4 films that are being screened today for Baltimore's legacy of Black liberation. And the man on the stage, what, Billy Murphy. Um, I said to Mr. Murphy when we were filming, um, we were going back and forth about. I said to him, I said, you're the greatest lawyer to come out of Baltimore since Thurgood Marshall. And first of all, that's true. But he was like, wait a minute, I have a national reputation. I was like, I know you have a national reputation, but so it got kind of crossed up in the translation. But the reality is that Billy Murphy is a national treasure, and Billy Murphy is one of the finest attorneys in America and has been for decades. And I want to thank you for trusting us and allowing us to tell your story because it was an honor, literally, to do it, and I appreciate you for doing that.
Thank you. You all were amazing.
At the very beginning of the film, when you come into the office and we start talking to you, you talk about Eddie Harris, the saxophonist, um, inviting you to join his band. And you said that it was a close call between choosing jazz instead of choosing law. How close was it? Can you talk about
It
the
was
actual
real close.
process?
It was real close.
What was that like?
Um, I come from a family of artists. My mother, all of my siblings are artists. My father's not. And art was an everyday proposition for us. And it wasn't emphasized because it was so omnipresent and important. We all had to learn how to play a musical instrument. We all had to learn how to paint and draw. We learned sculpture. We were immersed in art, and there were paintings done by our family members that were all over the house, and so it was a personalized kind of thing. And art is exceptionally important to me because life is art. I approach everything I do as an artist would approach it, and not for any particular reason. That's just how I feel. And when Eddie Harris asked me to play with him, it was like the answer to a dream. You know, great saxophone player, internationally known, and he wants me to play in his band? Shit. And so it was a exceptionally strong desire. But when I had my perspective back, I said, you know, playing drums is wonderful for you, the person, and it's wonderful for the band and, you know, for some of the people that listen, but it's not moving the civil rights agenda forward at all, and that's why I didn't do it.
Your mother, Madeline Murphy, you talk about in the film very poignantly about some of your greatest attributes coming from your mom and your dad, of course, but you speak very specifically and pointedly about your mother. Um, Talk about Madeline Murphy because she was. Larry Gibson in the film basically says of the Murphy family, he says of the great Murphy family, I'm paraphrasing, he says Madeline Murphy was the star. She was the organizer. She was the one who really saw things and was able to act. Talk about your mother and her influence. I mean, I remember her from Square Off. I remember her from the Afro newspaper. She was a force of nature.
She made the extraordinary look ordinary. She she had courage that was so deep, so ingrained in her. She was not afraid of anybody. She was not afraid of saying anything unless it was rude to anybody. And I thought the world was like that until I got out into the world. And courage is a rare thing. And she had it, and so I had it. You know, she poured it into me. Look, this film isn't about me. This film is about my mother and father. Because everything that's good about me came from them. I didn't invent it. All I know is that I started doing it. I started saying it. I started feeling it. And it felt right coming from that family because that's what we did all the time. There wasn't a day that didn't go by that my mother wasn't helping somebody. And my father, too. There wasn't a day that went by that people, I saw people grow right in front of my eyes because of what my mother and father were pouring into them. And then I saw my mother and father grow. And so growth became a natural part of being in that family. And you were expected to grow. And excellence was the other thing. Man, my mother was relentless with me. I brought home a 95 when I was at school, 49 in the 7th grade. And those kids wouldn't even speak to us. The teachers wouldn't socialize with us. It was unbelievable. And I come home with this 95, I'm expecting a hero's welcome. Nah, buddy. She says, son, you must not know what 95 means. I said, Mom, I said, hey, what do you mean I don't know what it means? She said, let me remind you. 95 meant that you could have gotten 100, but you got lazy. You didn't do all of the rest of the work. It was only 5%, son. What happened to you? Don't bring me any more 95s, you understand? And she meant it. And because she meant it, I started meaning it. I mean, it was like that. She made me get hundreds.
All right, now okay. So you say in the film that you got into MIT on your own. You already alluded to the fact that you had that art was something that ran deep in your family.
That must be a misprint.
What?
You said I got into MIT on my own?
That's what you said. You said, well, not on your own, but you said, well, you do say in the film, I got into MIT on my own. Not on your own like you paid for it, but I mean, you got into MIT on the strength of your intellect. That's what I took from it.
That's debatable.
Okay. You got into MIT. How about that? And like you say,
that's
in the film,
not debatable.
It's like you said in the film. If people hear, they say, "Man, damn, you must be smart. I couldn't have gotten to MIT."
My father wanted to go to MIT.
Right. Exactly.
That was his dream, and I had other dreams. And after a minute, my dreams didn't matter. You know, it was my daddy's dream, and his dream was better than my dream. And see, the value of parents, if they're great parents, is their dream for you is better than your dream for you. And that's what they did to me. They had me have big dreams. And they also taught me how to figure things out on my own. But it's such fun to collaborate. You know, it's like a war council in my family. Sitting around the table figuring out what we're going to do to these white people, you know what I mean? And it was fun. It gave us all energy, and I couldn't wait to have those discussions. So when Miss Smith, the music teacher at 49, wanted me to sing, or wanted us, the class, to sing Old Black Joe, oh yeah, we had fun with that. You know, that was what I was looking for. I was actually looking for that kind of encounter because I had something for him.
Tell the story, please.
Well, it was my mother and father's training. And so when she said we're going to sing Old Black Joe, and I knew what Old Black Joe is a slave song written by white folks about their view of how domesticated and wonderful we are in our slave state. And so I said, I'm not singing that song. That song is about slavery. It extols the virtues of slavery and our oppression. Why should I sing that song? There were 3 people pulling my coat because there were 4 black people in the class. Sit down, stop. Stop, you're going to get us in trouble. And that pissed me off. And it just made it worse. So I went home after we didn't sing it, and I said, y'all got to come up to the school. This is ridiculous up here. It's really racist. And she said, we're not coming up to the school. Why not? Because we taught you how to handle this. So what are you going to do tomorrow when you go back to the school by yourself? And we had a discussion about it. And I did what we decided I should do. Now, there were occasions where I didn't do what we decided to do, but that's okay too. But that was what it was like to grow up in that family.
You talk about being in your family and it was like a war council, like how are we going to deal with these white people? I suspect that there were many war council meetings that you had with Larry Gibson.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. War counselor par excellence.
Yeah. So of the people that over the time that I've spoke to you, the only person that you heap more effusive praise on other than your mother was Larry Gibson. I mean, you speak about him in such a beautiful and glowing and generous way. Can you talk more to the people about what that the relationship was like between you and Professor Gibson, even beyond the courtroom?
Well, Larry's 2 years older than me. Let's start with that. And back in the day, that meant a lot. And so I looked up to Larry, and Larry had a lot of great ideas, and he was infectious about how he did his business. He could organize unlike anybody I'd ever met, and people loved being around him and being part of his orbit. And they remain close to him to this day because he was all business. He rarely praised you. Here's the task at hand. Here's how we're going to do it. Anybody got any ideas about how we can do it better than that? And that's the part I took away. Anybody got any ideas that can make it better than that? There always are. And so that really reinforced in my life that you go for the best idea. You don't go for Billy's best idea. You go for the collective's best idea, and you put a collective together that excites you, that revs you up, that gives you energy, that makes you want to create, that makes you want to do better, that makes you want to win. And I learned all that from my mother and father.
When we were talking to you in your office and we were setting up the time to speak with Hassan, you said to me, you pulled me to the side, you said, "No, that's the smart one," like that. And I was like, wow, okay. And when we got to his house, I got what you were saying, but I wanted to ask, why was it so important for you, for Hassan to work on the Don King case with you? What was it that you want? Why did you want Hassan to work with you on that case?
Well, it's a father and son thing, when you're doing something very, very important and it's a teachable moment, you're supposed to include your kids. You're supposed to let them see how adults really take care of business at an advanced level. They're not going to get it all in the beginning, but they're going to immediately see that it's advanced. And the fact that it's advanced is attractive. And when they see that you know a little bit of how to do that advanced shit, Cherry Hill, I'm sorry. But I am Cherry Hill, by the way. What you see from me is pure Cherry Hill.
I know.
Let's don't make a mistake about it. So when you can expose a child to advanced adult thinking and make it simple and make it something they can do immediately, they start doing it. And when they start doing it, boy, there's no limit to how great they can get at it because nobody's teaching them simultaneously, but you're not going to be good at this or you're not going to go very far with this or blah, blah, blah. And so when you put them in that kind of environment where the sky is the limit, they start looking up at the sky and they start seeing that there's no limit up there, and they behave accordingly. And so he raised $1 billion to start his second business, and he's in the process of raising a half a billion more. And he loans money to lawyers and law firms all over the world to do advanced litigation.
Well, he's the smart one, obviously. The example in the film of you speaking about the watermen on the Eastern Shore.
That's some funny stuff, bro.
Hysterical. And to hear you imitate them is priceless. But that to me symbolizes a way that you've been able to navigate race throughout your career and in your life, I suspect, but specifically in your career. You told us a story that didn't make it into the film about a white lawyer. You didn't call his name, but you said he was having issues, like basically a mental
judge,
breakdown. Yeah, a judge. And you said, so-and-so, you're not doing too good. You talked to him and you said, and he was like, I'm not. And you said, yeah, ask so-and-so. And he said, well, and he asked him and you said, come with me, and so you have exhibited an ability to deal with white people in a way that, especially in the time frame in which you came up, starting in 1968, was, I think, extraordinary. Do you get where I'm going with this?
Again, my mother and father.
Well, speak to it.
My father used to tell me all these stories about how he would deal with white folks to get them to do what he wanted them to do. And I took those stories seriously. And, when you hear a story and you like the story, you can't wait to set up a situation out there where you can do it like that. Well, he was like that. And my mother was more aggressive. And I liked her fire because she could really let people know how important something was. And I mean, she could dig down deep and get the true importance of the situation out there where everybody could understand it and see it. And she could do it effectively. So I get that from her. I mean, it's amazing growing up with people like that. Now, it's so sad that everybody can have that experience. It's so sad. And I grew up with people who weren't having that experience. And so I could see the difference between what was happening with me, and I could see what was happening to brighter kids than me. There were about 15 of us that were exceptionally bright performers. Cherry Hill School, number 159. We had all black teachers. They loved us. And you begin to see the difference between the integration we got and the segregation we got. And there were many parts of the segregation that we got that were extraordinarily better than the integration we got later. Because it's the same white folks who put us in segregation, who put us into their version of, quote, integration, end of quote. And when you see all of these things, you start understanding how to maneuver in that space. And so I was never afraid of white folks because my father told me too many stories of how he outsmarted them. You know what I mean? So I didn't look up to him. I looked across at him. And I wanted to get to know everybody who was white who was in my world. I wanted to know every one of my white teachers. I wanted to know every one of my white law professors, my white college professors. Anybody that was an authority figure around me or contemporaneous with where I was, I wanted to get to know them and understand them. Why is it that you think this way? Why don't you think this way? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because I heard my mother and father talking about that all the time. Getting not to the what, but to the why of things. And so, yeah, I mean, look, white folks are easy as far as I'm concerned. You just get to know how they're raising their kids. You get to know what their hobbies and interests are. You get to know other things. And when you get to know all of these things about the person you're dealing with, it's a totally different relationship that develops. It's two people getting to know each other. It's not a black person and a white person getting to know each other. Now, does some of that remain in the situation? Unfortunately, yes. But it's a milder version of the virus than what you get when it's stranger to stranger. And I had clients who depended on me to get along with these judges. Now, most of them I wouldn't have wanted to socialize with. I'm socializing with them because that's part of what I do to get the results that I want for my clients. And the closer I am to the white decision makers, the better they're going to be to me and the better decisions they're going to make for my clients. And that's the way my father taught that to me. Now, my mother grew up in an integrated neighborhood in Wilmington, Delaware. And so she grew up with white folks. She didn't think they were anything special, but she hated segregation. But she wasn't a victim of segregation because everybody thought she was white. And so that was an interesting perspective to bring into the family. But my father, when he married my mother, he called her babe. He said, now, babe, you can't pass for white anymore. You got to choose sides. And she did. Boy, did she.
You know, that dynamic that you talk about, you said you got, that was something that was specific to your father that you observed your father do.
Yeah.
It was a trait bringing back Marshall. That was something that Marshall was able to do to navigate relationships in the courtroom, regardless of race, to his benefit.
Well, he was actually better than that because, you see, when he came up, those relationships were exceptionally rare, exceptionally rare. You couldn't have a backroom discussion with a white judge back in his day. Now, was there one or two, or were there one or two? Sure. But generally speaking, they were all hostile to him. And remember, he had to sleep in coffins in order to keep from being found by the Klan or the White Citizens Council. And it was very elaborate when he came to town. He had to stop being around the white folks. When I was coming up, it was a new thing to be around white folks. And I enjoyed it, frankly. You know, I learned how unsmart most of them were. And you see, you have to understand how we are taught when you're a semi-slave or when you're a domestic animal instead of a full-fledged wild animal. When you're domesticated, you have a view of white folks that's fear-based. I never had that view. My view was, let's see what we can do with these folks today. I think it's going to be an interesting day. And sit them around the table and squeeze them for their best ideas, inspire them to be smarter, inspire them to be better, inspire the group to be higher than white folks expect to be, but at the same time, really aiming it all at the black members of the group. You know, we can be better, we can be better, we can be better. We can always be better, and that's what life's about to me.
We have a few minutes left, Billy. You are a student of history and of politics, and you grew up literally in a cauldron of all of that: politics, history, education. When you reflect on, when you think about the space we find ourselves in as a country now, could you have imagined what we're seeing? I don't know any other way to kind of put it, but what do you think when you apply all the history, all that you've known and all that you grew up through to this moment in time politically?
I'm scared to death. And fear can be your friend because fear alerts you to the danger ahead and it makes you change your behavior so that you're not as exposed to it, or you can avoid it, or you can stop it. That's what fear is all about. When you're not afraid, you're not living. When you're unafraid, then you don't realize the gravity of the situation you're in. I was afraid before every case I ever tried. was I prepared enough? Did I think about this? Should I have done this instead of doing that? And when I cleared the clutter away and I began talking, it all went away. But it was there anyway. It was a part of everything I did. It was fear-based. And I've never been this afraid in this country. I think Donald Trump wants to be a dictator. He said it. A lot of people didn't believe it, didn't understand the significance of what he was saying. He's on his way to becoming a dictator. People see it, are beginning to see it, but they don't really see the true picture of it because he's acting like a Hitler would act. He's acting like a Putin would act. He's acting like the head of Hungary, one of his main guys, is acting. He looks up to dictators and he memorizes their key lines to their speeches and he studies them forensically. He learns their methods and their techniques, and you don't do that unless you want to be one. Now, look, it occurs to me that when I'm this frank about him, I'm putting myself at risk because he's a revengeful guy. But I'm not going to change just for him. Fuck him. I'm sorry to have this level of intimacy with you all. But you know, if he can become a dictator, he would gladly take the reins. And he's doing a blitzkrieg, a shock and awe demonstration of all these orders, executive orders that he's passing. And he's acting like a dictator with every one of them. As a matter of fact, he's told other people to write them. I mean, the 2025 thing, you know, he lied about that. Oh, I don't know what's in there. I haven't read it. Yes, you do, motherfucker. You know you're lying. And so I see American democracy at risk. And I don't see a whole lot of people who agree with that. And the reaction of black people to Trump is a vexing one to me. I mean, you know, I have these dreams of strangulation around some of these people. You know what I mean? It's so ignorant. I don't want to say they're dumb because, look, we were born with this genius device between our ears. If it's a normal brain, it's a genius device. But life has this habit of de-geniusing us. And I'm looking at a whole lot of de-genius people out here today who really are not getting it, and they're not planning ahead. They don't see it coming. And whenever I talk about politics these days, the first thing I do is I talk about Trump and where we're going. Everybody else wants to talk about this order and that order. Well, did you see he said this about education? No, man, fuck that. He's beginning to be a dictator, and we got to stop him. And so you don't just look at the trees because the forest is fucked up. Am I offending anybody out here?
I think you're all right. On that note, man, first of all, I appreciate you. I appreciate your candor. And I just appreciate you laying it out straight for us because I think there are a lot of people who are afraid and I don't know if they are open to admitting it, but it's real. So I appreciate that. And I think we appreciate you for all that you've done in our community all these years, almost 60 years. William H. Murphy, thank you, man.
Let me say something about you. I've gotten to know you from a different perspective than most people get to know you. I got to know you as a filmmaker and as a thinker and as a doer. You're a bad motherfucker. You really are. The sky's the limit for you. And it was such a wonderful experience being around you. Every minute I had a ball. And these were some serious minutes we spoke together. And I got to know you, and you are truly the kind of person to know you is to love you. And so I just want to tell you that.
Bless you, brother. And on that note, I want to, if my crew is here, Andre's here, Shannon's here. I don't know if Ken is
Yeah,
here.
will you all stand up, please? Because
Ken,
I work
I don't
with
know
both of
if Yesin is here.
you. Wonderful people. Andre and Shannon. Wonderful. Had a ball.
Best crew. If I had 1,000 tongues, I couldn't thank them enough because I couldn't have done it without them. So I appreciate y'all very much.
You know how to pick them.
I do know how to pick them. I do know how to pick them. And I picked you.
Oh.
And I picked you. So William H. Murphy, thank you, man. I appreciate you.
Thank you.